Welcome, everyone. This is our informal welcome because I have a few things that I'm going to go over that are just kind of the technical things. And then we're going to get into the heart and the excitement and the good stuff. So first of all, just to get the tech stuff behind us, I actually have 2 recordings going on. So just so you know, I do not in any way foresee that there will be some kind of glitch with Zoom on my end or on your end. But in case there is, I have 2 recordings going on. And that's the benefit of, having experience, I guess. So, and that is to say, if you get bumped off the meeting, there's the replay. You'll be able to watch that. If you have to come or go early or late to any of these classes, no problem, because the replay really, genuinely, there are people who take these courses and they really mostly or entirely take them passively. There is a magical quality to it, and it's really relevant for talking about the Akashic Records, because if you actually do watch any portion of it in replay, I swear to you, it's like time traveling, because you will feel like they're talking to me. They're talking about me. This is happening like it's right now, because it really is, because that's our intention, is to be connected beyond the limitations of time and space. So if any of that happens, I will post the full replay of the full session as soon as possible, tomorrow sometime. And then in addition to that, I will be breaking these up into classes, sectioned classes. So some of the lessons that they'll be posted in the student portal, maybe there'll be one that's 7 minutes, maybe there'll be one that's 30 minutes. There are different groupings, different lengths of lessons, but I'll be posting those along the way. And so that'll be really beneficial for you also to go back and rewatch, because you'll be able to skim through and see which ones you want to pay more attention to, give it a second or third look. So to that end, also while I'm going along here, while I'm teaching on a certain, one particular lesson, I will be teaching and not looking at the chat, but feel free to either jot down your questions and then ask them when we open up the floor for us to ask questions. Pop them in the chat box if you want along the way. If I happen to miss it, then, just alert me to it and I'll go through those again. And so I'll be doing these stretches of actually teaching so that, again, those lessons can be cohesive. And sometimes between the lessons, I'm going to pause for about 20 seconds. I'm actually playing a little bit of a musical slate on my secondary recording so I can delineate where the lessons begin and end. So if you see me pausing awkwardly, it won't really feel awkward. It's not awkward. Just take a moment yourself and take a breath, and I'll be starting up. And it's a 20-second delay that I tend to do when I'm doing classes that way. What else on my technical stuff? That's about it on the technical stuff. Yeah. So then the other somewhat technical stuff is that this is community learning. And while we're going to be receiving a lot of information, we're also going to be opening up the floor for Q&A. We are going to be having times of demonstration. And as we progress to especially the second and third live sessions, we will be we might go into breakout rooms. I'm going to be flexible with how I want to make sure that your questions are addressed, but we will probably at some point be doing, like I said, demonstrations and the Q&A, but also we might do breakout rooms. And so just generally, because we're in this community together, our hearts are wide open, and I want you to be here with your hearts wide open. And we're here with our tender, beautiful, vulnerable hearts. And so we just want to be very aware of that. Aware of how we are presenting ourselves and how we're sharing space with others. And I have no doubt that I need to say this to any of you. I actually say it to be official, so that you feel completely safe, because I know you, and I want you to know that even though you may not know everyone here, our community standards are that we are only here to be respectful, kind, encouraging, and really, as I say, we're here to love on each other. We're here to find ways to acknowledge each other, to witness each other, and to boost one another up. We're here to see the best in each and every one of us. So like I say, the reason I'm saying this is not because there's any single one of you that I think doesn't know that. It's because I want you to feel assured that I have said it to everyone so that you know that's what we're here for. And that also extends to if we do have some one-on-one time with someone, we're all on the level of student. So we want to refrain from coaching, but we can give positive feedback. We aren't critiquing, but we are giving the positive and truthful feedback, the ways that we will encourage one another. Oh, and one other thing, another technical thing is in case you didn't see it, for those of you who you're taking this course and you're not taking one of my other programs like Astral Mastery, or you're not already enrolled in Sacred Sphere. A lot of you saw this because you actually registered for the Sacred Sphere classes. I am offering to you guys free admission to the Sacred Sphere sessions for December. There's one more in December. It's this Sunday. Is that the 22nd? I think so. Yeah, the 22nd. And then there are 2 in January and 2 in February. They're on Sundays from 10 to 12. The dates are all listed. Actually, I think they're listed in the student portal. And I put them also in an email, at least 1 or 2 emails that I've sent y'all. But if you go to the Sacred Sphere link you just have to schedule yourself through Calendly. Now, that Sacred Sphere is usually either $35 to drop in for 1 session, or it's $55 a month to subscribe for 2 sessions, plus the whole catalog of all of the replays. If you subscribe, there are, let's see, at least 26, probably about 30 replays in there. And there are lessons, there are meditations, there are exercises, there are amazing things. So the catalog itself is pretty amazing. And it's, again, like I said, the time travel aspect. If you go and watch a replay of Sacred Sphere, you will be there. You will have gotten the bang for your buck, because you'll have gotten that resource from 6 months ago or a year ago. And you can play a little bit of that kind of that bingo with it, where just let yourself get intuitively guided to one, and you can expect miracles. At any rate, Sacred Sphere. So it is the development circle. It's a place where we go to, or like the lab, where there's practicing and there's plenty of Q&A. And if you wanted to have yourself certified as an Akashic Record Reader by me, then you would go to a Sacred Sphere and you would present a reading. You could do it spontaneously with someone who is there in the Sacred Sphere, community. You could organize it with someone here in the Akashic Record class, or you could bring someone, and you just need to let me know if you want to bring someone, and I'll just acknowledge that. I'll just know that to expect someone else there. So you would just come and you would demonstrate it, and you might be demonstrating it to the whole class. You might be demonstrating it in a breakout room just with me, and you don't get to pick which one it is. It's going to, either way, if you are demonstrating in front of everyone, you're just going to be soaking up all of their positive, supportive energy, and it will just be even more fun. So I opened that up for 3 months, this month, January and February, so that you could go ahead and show up and get your certification. You can just come anyway, though. You don't have to go and present if you don't want to. You can just take advantage of that bonus that I'm giving you. And then after February, I would love for you to join Sacred Sphere, but if you wanted to come to do a certification demonstration, you can either subscribe to Sacred Sphere for that, two times a month, or you can just drop in for one for $35. And so that's it. Okay. That's my technical stuff. Before we start, let me see how many. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Anything that's burning before we actually head in? And I don't mean about the content, because we actually haven't started it yet, but is there anything on that you're like needing a little direction on? Y'all got does everyone have you don't super duper need the PDFs, but I want to make sure in case you're someone who likes to have them in front of you. Is anyone unclear about how to get those or where to get those? Good. Okay. Well, I guess we're going to get started then. Oh, I'm super excited, you guys. Oof. If y'all are excited, just please imagine that I'm triple excited. Because I've been downloading this stuff, and when it all comes at me and I'm like organizing it, and it's going to be a ball. Okay, so here is the first of my pauses as I get myself situated to begin to give you the content. Welcome to Akashic Record Reader Course. I am so excited to go on this journey with you. And we are going to start this session right up front with an opening of your heart. So we're actually going to go into a meditative journey right at the beginning. This is a meditative experience. It's also an attunement. And let me go ahead and clarify this word attunement in case this is one that you're not super familiar with, or maybe you are. But let's go ahead and open it up to ourselves today together in this space. Well, as it may seem obvious, because right there in the middle of that word is the root tune, like when you tune a piano. And, you know, this is also language that's used in Reiki when you receive your Reiki attunement. And attunement is essentially adjusting your frequency, really adjusting your harmonics, adjusting you to your home tone. And that's what we're going to be talking about a lot in this program. That's what the Akashic Records help us to do, is to adjust and align with that home frequency. So we're going to start off, and I just invite you to relax, be in the experience. And I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have your experience with meditation and hypnosis. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to guide this, so I'm going to give you a moment here to get yourself settled in. And then we will proceed to come together in this attuning meditative experience. Welcome to your sacred practice. In the meditative journey ahead, you will be guided to open your heart to the universe. In this deeply attuning experience, you can expect to find new depths of your inner being as it blossoms to connect with your soul frequency. And beginning to settle in now. And perhaps you just take a moment to notice how you're held by gravity, held by that which pulls you to the embrace of the earth. And while you're experiencing this comfort of being held in an embrace, I want to invite you to take 3 slow and easy, luxuriating breaths. 3 breaths of life at your own pace now. As you complete the cycle of these 3 divine breaths of life, you can allow your breathing to return to a natural pace, and just being aware of the fact that it has become more intentional, more aligned to your alignment. And what a wonderful endeavor. What a wonderful endeavor to become more aligned. And you may even be imagining what that might mean to be aligned, to be in line. And so let's imagine, visualize, or sense that this alignment does begin with you being connected to the earth. And now if your feet are presently on the ground, or if they're not, you might just imagine that your feet are on the ground, imagining that they are flat on the ground. And from your feet, as they are connected to the earth, allow yourself to imagine or sense that there are these kinds of energetic roots that extend from your feet. These roots, they're perhaps like a tree or a flower, and as they grow into the earth, as they connect into the earth, I wonder if you might be pondering how we often want to get to the root of an issue. We want to get down into how this might be receiving energy. And so let's create that alignment. With these roots, get to the root of your connection to this earth. Get down to the root of the purity of your being as nature. And just to agree to it more deeply, in a moment I want to ask you to take another one of those slow and intentional breaths. And on the inhale, imagine that you're really charging up the roots that extend from your feet into the earth. When you fully draw in the inhale, hold for a moment as you imagine how charged up these roots are, charged with your intention to connect with creation. And then on the exhale, allow your roots to extend even deeper into the earth as you are reaching into the earth to receive that motherly love from the earth. And now go ahead, take in that inhale, charge up the roots. And release and extend into the earth. And so these energetic roots of yours, they are signaling to Mother Earth. And the earth, she has her own soul, her own spirit, her own heart. And we imagine, we see, we sense her heart as this crystal core, this alive crystalline expression of the love of Mother Earth. Imagine that your roots are calling into this crystal core, this vibrating, this alive, this illumined crystal core, the heart of Mother Earth. And she answers. She sends you light of her light. Allow yourself to notice how these roots receive that light from the earth. like a plant that is drinking the water in the soil. Draw up this crystalline light from the heart of the earth, flowing it up, absorbing it up through these roots until they find your feet, your connection. And now you are aligned with nature. And indeed you are nature. And you know nature, and nature knows you. Flow this energy of love and light from the earth all the way up your feet, through your shins and calves, knees to hip, hip up through abdomen and spine, up to heart, up and over shoulders, front and back, and down your arms. And this illumines a precious spark within your heart. And now up around the shoulders to the neck, and up and out the top of the head, out the top of the head. And I wonder if you are imagining or sensing at this time above and atop of your head, because you fill to overflowing with that love and that illumination. And bring your awareness now to a couple of feet, maybe 18 inches above your head. And here, there is another connection point. And this is often referred to as the soul star chakra. And from here, there is another signaling. And that signal is coming all the way up through the earth, and that spark in your heart, and connecting up to this point. And that signal shall be answered. And so now from above, if it's even possible to imagine the top of the universe, or the far reaches above you, which is where your soul is seated. And there is a column of pure light. And as you imagine it or you notice it, it may seem like a very special beam of sunlight, a ray of sunlight. And it is, in a manner of speaking, as it originates from the central sun of the universe. And now as that pure column of light comes down, it's received, and it is calibrated above your head at that energy center, at that soul star, and it comes right down. Allow it to go all the way through you, filling you up and traveling down to the crystal core of the earth, so that we have this full center pillar. And it may be that you're imagining it. That's just perfect. You're calling in the as above, so below, as within, so without. And with all of this support and with all of this illumination through you and about you, I would like you now to bring your attention, your awareness to your heart, once again, to your heart center. And in this moment, imagine or visualize a flower that opens to the sun. I'm sure you've seen this before. It's as if the dancing of the rays on the sun's petals, the sun on the petals, that it seems to encourage the flower to open. And this is your heart that we are asking to open now. Open like a flower to that pure ray of sunlight. And I wonder if you can welcome that warmth into your heart. And I wonder if you have ever seen a flower that, when it opens so exuberantly to the sun, it seems to curl its petals over and under because it is so inviting, so welcoming, and so worthy to receive that sun light. And this is precisely how you are held as you open your heart. As you open your heart to the universe, that pure beam of light shines into your heart. And that ray of light is composed by the universe precisely, uniquely for you. In this moment, as it falls upon you, it cannot fall anywhere else, and it does not want to fall anywhere else. This light is made for you. And as you bask in it, you receive the gift of this light, and you allow the light to receive the gift of you. Spend a moment or two here really basking in that light, leaning in to allow your heart to open even more and commune with this column of light and this alignment. I will call you back in a moment. And now calling to your awareness again that flower. That flower receiving the sun's warmth, the sun's illumination, and that activation of the gift that the flower has to give, its aroma, its colors, how it contributes to the garden, to the ecosystem. And the timing, the synchronization of it all is just right. In this life, there seems to be no perfection, but in this moment, it seems as though perfection is a foregone conclusion in nature. For nature makes no mistakes. The universe makes no mistakes. And as it is the perfect time for the expression of this flower, it is the perfect timing of the cosmos, the rise and fall of the sun and moon. It is also the perfect synchronization for your full expression, the expression of your heart. The love that your heart emits completes the universe. The love your heart creates makes the story complete. The love song that comes falling from your heart makes this symphony divinely harmonized. And all that is left is for you to say yes and to release your heart and all of its magnificent capacity. And so we shall call your heart open, attuned, aligned, all for the highest benefit of you and for all concerned. And so this work is now sealed. And so it is. Amen. All right, everyone can come on back, opening your eyes and moving around a little bit here. And we're going to continue with class, and so you can stay in that open-hearted space, and then I'm going to give us a few lessons here. And we'll open the floor intermittently for any questions or comments. Okay. And away we go. We are going to be opening up the Akashic Records for you and helping you to have a sense of how you can do this for others if you so choose. And I do encourage you to do both for your own work and for others, because it is a magnificent experience. Having a technical difficulty. Test, 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 test. Okay, that's better. Pardon me 1 second. I'm just going to start that over since I had a little bit of a volume issue. We are stepping into the Akashic frequency now. We're going to be opening up this practice for you, for yourself, and equip you to be able to deliver this beautiful practice to others. We are in a time of our history, of our evolution like none other. And you could look around everywhere. Anyone who is on their spiritual path, we're talking about it, and you can feel it too. And so it is just the right time for you to embrace this practice and embrace it in a new way that is right on target with where we are in our evolution, our collective evolution, as well as your own evolution. So I'll give you a little bit of background in case it is our first time working together, although I believe a lot of people who come to these classes, it's not likely you're first with me, but it bears a little bit of background. Interestingly, as we are coming together to create this course, the live session of it, I am about, how many days is it? 8 days? A little over a week away from the 10-year anniversary of my spiritual awakening. That's amazing. It was actually December 27th, 2014. So it's really close. And amazingly, it seems like I've lived about 20 lifetimes in that 10 years. And so how that occurred, because sometimes when I mention that, people are like, well, what happened there? Well, essentially, my deep history starts out really rocky. I was born into a family that was, there was poverty, there was rage, there was addiction, there was violence. And then even a little bit further along into that, there was a second iteration of family that I moved into. And there was a direct abuse to me in that situation. The person who was put in place as the male figure in my life, not my father, but the next person who would be that head of household, directly abused me. So I had, coming out of the first 18, 20 years, I was pretty much in some PTSD, chronic, some complex and chronic PTSD there for a bit. And my 20s took me to some ways to try to survive that were maybe not as harsh as the childhood, but still ones that had contexts of abuse. And, it was challenging. I will say that how I made it through that in a way that actually allowed some evolution and some healing. A few different things. One was I actually was in my youth, I was in the church. I took myself to church. It wasn't something my family encouraged or did or modeled for me. It was something that I did. And while I have left religion behind long ago, religion sometimes can still foster spirituality. When I was a kid, I think I had a drive to seek spirit, and the only paradigm that was available was church. So I went to church, and I studied sacred texts. But you know what else I was doing? I was kind of getting into things like astrology and reincarnation, and I found myself in that book section in when I was a teenager that said occult, and I was like, what is this mystical place? I like it. And I didn't go to church enough or have enough of a religious dogma or role models in religion that said that's scary and dangerous. So I was able to wander there without anyone telling me I shouldn't. So I had a little mix of mysticism and a lot of my spiritual practice, albeit, I would be going to church. I didn't go that regularly, so it was still very private in a lot of ways. It was still very much my own. I experienced mediumship, and I just didn't know that's what it was called. I experienced spontaneous healing, and some of the churches that I went to actually did believe in the gifts of the spirit, as they call it, spontaneous healing, speaking in tongues, and the prayer practice was, it's meditation. So there was a lot of spiritual development while I was involved in the church as a youth. And then at about age 20, I started to go to church more, and that's what made me go, oh, well, religion is actually, for me, becoming diametrically opposed to my relationship with God, and even my relationship with Yeshua, with Jesus Christ. And so I found myself not able to really spend time in church really anymore. I missed it because there was obviously community that could be really beautiful. I missed it because there was some dedicated time to do prayer and singing. And but at the same time, it was just it reached a critical point in order for my spiritual development to continue. I had to take it out of that context. I continued to pray in the ways that helped to foster my relationship with spirit. And so there I was in my 20s, albeit in really painful situations, but I had some kind of spiritual practice going. I also had my animals, and they're my saving grace. They are my guardians. And then I also started to get into, in my mid and late 20s, Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra and Dr. Wayne Dyer. Oh yeah, I said Deepak Chopra, yeah. And so these different principles, I didn't know that I was actually working in a way that was perfectly natural for my spiritual development. In my 30s, I should also say there was also body movement. I was a runner, and I was able to discharge a lot of those negative energies into the earth and from my body and regulate my nervous system. And it was very meditative. So my body movement practices have always been very important to me too. Continuing into my 30s, and I met the man who would become my husband. We met when we were 30. We're the same age. Married when we were about 39, 40. And throughout that time, well, he's a spiritual seeker too, without realizing that he was. And there were different times where we came together and we challenged one another to be more authentically who we really are. And then all of a sudden, after we had been together for 10 years, this is where we find me in 2014, December 27th, through the healing that had happened, I found myself no longer living in poverty, feeling like I could survive. I actually had a career that I kind of really liked. I had a beautiful relationship, and I still had beautiful animals and friends and all of these other wonderful accoutrements that makes life really pretty good. So then I found myself waking up in the morning going, why don't I feel very good today? And like emotionally or energetically, and I was like, what is this? And I'd kind of do a little inner inquiry and find that I had some kind of a thought, if I let it be a thought. And wait, that didn't make sense, because I'm excited about my day. I'm not dreading my day. And at any rate, because I was having thoughts and feelings that didn't make sense for me, and I was like, I got enough of my own actual thoughts and feelings that are crappy. I don't need extra ones that I don't need to carry around extra stuff. I actually decided to get a reading with a psychic. Never considered it one way or the other. Once again, remember the religious, I had very few religious models, so I didn't have anyone telling me it was bad. It didn't appeal to me. I don't know. It wasn't something I thought about before. And in a 15-minute reading, my heart burst open with the suggestion that I was highly empathic, and it just made a lot of things make sense. And then I was on a tear. I soon after that opened up animal communication. That was my first psychic ability that became evidential. And then I opened up mediumship soon after that. And then teaching came online. So that is my long story short, hopefully short enough. That is some of the major transformations that have happened. Seems like it should be notable since, we're almost at the 10-year anniversary. Now, my qualifications since then, I've had this business of teaching and doing one-on-one services in all of the different kinds of modalities. Mediumship, animal communication, and channeling came online very quickly. And teaching has always been very core to what I do. In fact, it's something that I conceive pretty clearly in in the human design incarnation cross, which we'll talk a little bit about. The incarnation cross is really the theme of this life. So at some point, your incarnation cross and its theme will insist on taking over, which is why I just wanted to give a mention of it in this course, that just that piece of it, if you kind of get acquainted with the vibration of that theme, it's going to offer all of the different ways that it might show up in your life. You have all of the choices you could make. But for me, teaching and helping people along the lines of transformation is very clear in that aspect of my human design. So the qualifications is the business and the practice itself, well over the 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell says that we would require. I also went to HMI, College of Hypnotherapy, For clinical hypnotherapy, year 1, I graduated in 2020, and then I took their second year program, Mind Body Psychology, graduated from that in 2023. I've been teaching at HMI since before I graduated from the school. I also have a degree in spiritual healing, a bachelor's degree in spiritual healing from the University of Metaphysics, and many others, advanced mediumship from the LA Spiritual Arts, all kinds of other ones. So I just wanted to let you know a little bit of my both qualifications, my experience, and some of the background. Now, I want to move on to the Akashic Records. Let's do that. And so as I was putting together the lessons for this, I went to the Akashic Records to ask about how to properly create this for you all. And then I actually went to the Akashic Records today because I was like, I want to bring a couple of examples of what the Akashic Records can reveal. And so I was like, well, you know what? I should go to the Akasha. I first sat down to try to remember them. And then I was like, wait a minute, I should actually just open up the records and see and ask the question. And so I did. I opened up my records and I asked, what do I need to know about presenting this course, presenting it, specifically today, how we're starting today. And so I took notes and I'll read them somewhat verbatim. And immediately the energy that come through was it was pretty jovial. It was almost like it wasn't literally, but almost a Santa Claus energy, like, oh, you honey, ha, ha, ha. And I heard very clearly, keep it simple. In fact, this is the perfect story, which is why I'm telling it. This is the perfect story. Remember to connect with the joy frequency so that everyone's being, the person, the physical person, the person and the personality, this person may be quenched of the thirst of his or own soul. And I'll just repeat that. What the records told me today was I myself am thirsting for a drink of the joy that my soul has for me, and I imagine so do all of you. That we may be quenched of the thirst of my own soul. They say, let this be a dynamic and playful experience. You are also starved of play in your diet. Be children and allow your love to be expressed through your creative play. That was the first piece that they gave me. And then the second piece, they actually started bringing to me imagery, visions of a past life. It was a very interesting one too, a very teachable moment. So I recorded that I was shown a past life in which I was a child at play. I was about 4 years old. And by the way, it seems to me that this may have been in this actual life, but it was also in another life. It was both a past life and then it echoed as another experience in this life. That's what it seems like. So I was shown a past life in which I was a child at play, also potentially a duplicate in this life. In this moment, I chose to leap over a stream. And this stream seemed too large for my physical capacity to leap over. But I took a moment and I took this leap in faith and joy. In the moment, I was perfectly willing to crash into the bosom of the stream. And instead, because I was perfectly willing for whatever would happen in my burst of joy and faith, the whole trajectory of life incarnated shifted. It was the pure heart of a child that changed everything in that present moment. And so that's what we're starting off with, a couple of ways that we can just find that home frequency of play and of creativity. That's what you're here to do. You are your soul. You are a divine child of your soul playing to your heart's desire. That is what we are here to capture. As some of us have shared that sometimes we feel stuck. We feel like we're in a rut. Well, perhaps it's time to leap in faith and joy. So before we head a little bit further, I want to address how to approach spiritual learning. And that's what we're doing here. We are educating, we're immersing ourselves in spiritual learning. Now, this is a process that is different from all of the institutionalized learning, the ways that we were conditioned to try and learn. Because what we want to do is actually recalibrate. We want to attune our in our intuition, in our subconscious, and all of this is really housed in the body, as opposed to the mind. And I mean the ego mind, the personality mind, and what we often sometimes think of as the conscious mind. In human design, it's called the personality mind, and it's called the passenger. It's meant to be the passenger. And this I mention it as human design to attribute, but also because it is so eloquently put in that way. We seem to be conditioned that we're supposed to use this as the driver. And I point here because that's where we feel it. When we're thinking too hard and we're trying to understand, we're all up in here. Because the creativity, the heart, the gut, and our intuition, all of this is in the body, or at least correlated to that part of our physical body. It is below the neck. It isn't quite contained in the body, but a lot of the disturbances show up in this portion of the body. So we want to allow the personality mind to be in the passenger seat. So what it means to be in the passenger seat is it's just there to enjoy the ride. It can, look out the window. It can, when it's time to call upon what it is translating, that's great. But it's meant to come to us from this space. And you might even find yourself, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're ever feeling overwhelmed, that means that you're in a fight-flight state, even a little bit of a shade of one. You're in a kind of hypnotic state of fight-flight. So just take a breath and just find yourself grounded again. Instead of trying to translate all of the information coming at you from here, it actually needs to become in form. Let the energy, let the frequency of words and images and everything that's presented to flow to you, and especially to this aspect of your form. And so I'll demonstrate for you the difference. This is me listening to you and regarding you from this place of my creative, intuitive, subconscious awareness. That's what this feels like, if you can imagine that, or perhaps you're watching it and you can see the difference or hear the difference in my voice. And I'm holding you and my awareness of you from this place, and I'm directing my communication to you from this place. It's coming up to my throat. That's the manifestation center. Now, here is when I put it up here, and now I'm going to pay attention to you like this, and I'm sort of, in a way, I'm trying to strain, and I'm feeling my body tighten. I'm feeling my gut wanting to shut off. I'm feeling my breathing getting shallower, and I'm trying to understand the words, and I'm starting to feel like, oh no, what's coming next is I'm literally creating this unpleasant state for myself. So I'm going to just stop it. Your mind is not the driver. It is the passenger. So we're just going to let it flow to us. Let it flow to and through. Let it come to that grounded, beautiful space of your being. Now let's talk about what the Akashic Records are. The Akasha. This is a Sanskrit word, and it means primary substance. It's one of a really great translation. Very old language, Sanskrit is. Old languages like Sanskrit and like Hebrew, they have so much human connection imbued into them, coded into it. And so the ancient language and the ancient implications of the word Akasha, of it being the primary substance out of which all things are formed. It is the energy that is the first stage, if you will, the first iteration of crystallization of spirit. So this word crystallization is the process that we are in. We are in a crystallization process. They say thoughts become things. Thoughts are when we take ephemeral, like dispersed energy, and we make it into something like a thought, or we harden it a bit into a belief. And then eventually that will be outpictured into a physical reality. It is like when water becomes crystallized into ice. We're also in the process of crystallization in the other way, when the ice is then warmed and then it becomes liquid again, and it's warmed more and it becomes ether, it becomes a gas. We are in this cycling of crystallization, both crystallization of spirit to physical reality and physical reality to spirit again. And so we are in an ascension process. And that is what the Akasha is. It is the substance. It is the energy at its earliest stage. And it has such an exquisitely fine quality. It's so sensitive. It is so available, if you will, to us, to everything. It's so available that the slightest fluttering of any vibration in the ether, it actually then is an indelible impression upon it. So every thought, every utterance, everything that you possibly create, whether it's thinking, speaking, walking, doing, or the beat of your heart, that has made an indelible impression upon the Akasha. And so when I say that the universe makes no mistakes, the universe makes no mistakes. The creation of you, the growth of your fingernails, every single beat of your heart, the length of every single breath, the length of your hair growing in every single moment, everything has been consciously created and also put into your own hands. And this brings me to some language that we will be using, especially in the main function that I'm teaching you in this course, which is the invocation. That is really the whole housing of the technique that we're going to learn. And we start this invocation with the words Holy Om, O-M, also ancient. Om is the sound vibrational complex that we use to represent the primordial tone of the universe. So it's as if the universe, if you want to say prime creator, or if you like the word God, before God could ever be, before creator could ever be, creator had to create. And so that is the first utterance, the primordial tone. And so there's this correlation here. It's like the Akasha is the breath before the tone occurred. And the tone is the first creation, and you are tone of that tone. And so in this program, I was guided, I was inspired to use this language of Holy Om to refer to what you might think of as when you use the word universe or God or creator. But it's more than that too. It is encapsulating what we are calling into as we call forth the Akasha, call forth the Akashic Records or the Akashic frequency, the primordial tone of the universe and your primordial tone. And we're going to go over that a little more deeply when we get to the lesson on the invocation. Now, this actually brings to mind some other part of what we understand as how the universe is functioning, or just a sort of I guess paradigm, a way that we can comprehend a model of the universe and the architecture, the way that the universe has been expressed. And it brings us to angels, because angels, the archangels, are beings of light. They are just somehow they're beams or fractals of the one light. And it's said, it is experienced just again as a model to be able to organize the way we connect with the universe, that the archangels are the first creation or the first expression of the universe. And so I was pondering this as I was guided to give the Holy Om, the call in this program. So I was asking, what about archangels? And so the way that this kind of architecture, and it's not a hierarchy as in the angels are better or above you. Everything is one. And if just like a parent would lay themselves down and put their child above them, so does every loving part of the universe. But as we're just talking about how we could put any sense of how this possibly happened, the relationship of the archangels as that first expression from the primordial tone, from the creation, from creator, that from that place then was created all subsequent things. So it's like the archangels then became co-parent, co-author with the prime creator frequency. And so then there's this sense of the archangels creating oversouls. And then from the oversouls are souls. And from the souls are higher selves. And from the higher selves eventually come you, the person, the incarnated being. And so you would see that in a sense that the Akasha is flowing through the archangelics and therefore flowing through into you. And so that's kind of the relationship. Now, as we go down that architecture, we get to the place of the soul. And your soul holds the blueprint of this journey. But it's a blueprint, right? If you imagine the blueprint of a building, it's sketched out. It has like the bathroom. But you know what the blueprint doesn't have? It doesn't have how the interior design of the bathroom would be. You know, it doesn't have the paint on the walls. It doesn't have the music that you would play inside. It doesn't have the love that would be made in the bedroom. It doesn't have the children's play within the architecture, but it has a blueprint. And so that's the relationship that you as a person have with your soul. There's a blueprint, and the more that we can come into alignment with that blueprint, then that's going to help us to feel even more free to create and to paint the walls how we like. So that is, we'll be talking a lot about that blueprint of the soul. As we come into alignment with the soul's blueprint, the soul being the representation of the author. As we say, you know, the archangels, they're, you know, or the creator's author, and then archangels are author. And then we get to the soul as the author for this journey, your physical incarnated journey. And you are a co-author, you as the person. And there's not really truly a separation, but boy, doesn't it feel like it? Doesn't it feel like it? And that veil, that illusion of separation is the thing that we're playing with. And so this is what we are coming into alignment with. We have the author, the soul helping us and holding that true north, and then falling into that easy alignment as the co-author. Meanwhile, on that vertical plane, that beautiful alignment, that frequency of alignment, there here on this horizontal plane, we're playing around and we bump up against each other and we forget we're the co-author and the events that are occurring and, you know, all of that. So that's the forces we all well know that we are working with. And so that is what we're doing in an Akashic reading, is we're helping to connect to the blueprint, whether it's a reading for ourselves or for another. And here's the cool, I'm going to curse cool ass shit, y'all, about today and right now. The time that we are in and the time that we are doing this program is because we right now are closer in our physical manifested plane of life. We are closer to functioning as energy than we ever have been. There is less and less veil of illusion between how we actually are energy. And I'm talking a little bit about quantum physics. I've sat through a few quantum physics lectures, and I didn't understand a lot of it because I'm not smart enough. But I did hear every single time I've been listening to some quantum physicists, there tends to be someone who says, really what we're doing is we're putting some framework around what mystics have been experiencing for centuries. I've heard it almost that same way several times. What mystics have been experiencing or knowing for centuries. And here's the thing, is that when there is a full awareness of something, a paradigm on our planet, then it becomes commonly available and actively manifested. And I'll give you an example. And that is that in, oh gosh, I've forgotten the year. I'm about to reference it, but I always get the year. I think it's 1783. Yeah, I think it's 1783. If it's not 1783, it's like 1781. In 1783, let's just call it that, and allow me to be imperfect. That is when that's when Uranus was discovered. We didn't know about Uranus before then. In 1783. And so, again, now we're referencing human design. In human design shows us that that's when a whole different kind of person came on the planet. We went from being a seven-centered, seven chakras person prior to Uranus being discovered, and then to a nine-centered person. And that is also when a whole different aura type showed up on our planet, and those are the projectors. And you don't have to know about human design. Again, just seeing how how much impact there is when something is made known in our plane. Uranus was always there. But when we actually became consciously aware of Uranus, that's when it became actively manifested. And I'll tell you another way we can see that. It's not just because human design says so. Before, we used to have at that time a Saturnian lifespan. Saturn's orbit is about, about 29 years, 30 years. So, in the olden days, of course, there's reasons. There was disease and we didn't have health practices. We didn't know all of that. Anyway, the average lifespan was much shorter. And now, look at our average lifespan. I think last time I checked, I think it was like around the late 70s and 80s. And that's really long. So we've even surpassed it. Uranus's orbit is about, was it 60 years or something like that? So we went from a Saturnian lifespan to a Uranian lifespan when we learned about Uranus. Now, it took a little time for that to really build up steam and to have that compounding effect, but not that much time considering the centuries before. So I give you this to say that because of it's not just our scientists and our brainiacs know it. It's being we are utilizing these kinds of energy modalities and paradigms. Even if we don't know how they made the computer, we are literally right now interacting with it. And so because it is commonly known, it is widely available to be manifested. So I want to share with you, and again, indulge me if you will, to get the tiniest bit nerdy about this, but this is something that quantum physics has codified. It is a solid part of what quantum physics understands, and it's called superposition. Superposition is a fundamental concept in quantum computing that describes how quantum systems exist in multiple states simultaneously. Quantum computing, superposition it's exploited to increase computing power by allowing quantum bits to exist in a superpositioned state of both 0 and 1 simultaneously. So translated, that means that you can be here and there at the same time. That you can be you and another version of you at the same time. And that things are speeding up. So talk about a quantum leap. Literally available to us now. We are doing this on this planet. Now, one other thing. So that's what superposition is. It's holding the paradox of two realities in one position. And that is the position of high creation, of high manifestation. Anytime you are holding a paradox, you are at the brink of creation. Now, there is something else that is pretty mind-blowing, and it's again, really common. Google, Google, Lord Google. We need to know something, we go to Google. Google now has a state-of-the-art quantum chip, and it's called Willow. Now, I'm just going to talk about this a teeny bit. Again, let this wash over your body if you're not too super interested in it. But Willow performs a standard benchmark computation in under 5 minutes, their standard computation in under 5 minutes that would take today's fastest supercomputers 10 septillion years to accomplish. 5 minutes, 10 septillion years. And so that's 10, I don't know how many, I think there's I don't know how many zeros there are. I can't even remember. But listen to this. 10 septillion is a number that vastly exceeds the age of our universe. Do you see? How is that possible? We actually have a technology. We have something that can process something that is vastly older than our universe. So with our little scientists, they said, well, the way that this is happening is because this is a multiverse and we're actually accessing beyond this universe. So we are actually reaching beyond not just our physical reality, beyond our universe, beyond time. We are no longer constricted by time, y'all. That is the case. I'm super excited. I hope you're super excited. This is the theory of the multiverse because 10 septillion years, we have something that can do that. It's older than our universe. And that's what we can do. That is what we can. We don't have to go to computer school. You can if you want to. We have already had this technology. We've had a spiritual technology in our Akashic records. This is why Edgar Cayce is the most famous, psychic, because he went to the Akashic records. And because we are in our awareness that we can break off the limiting paradigms of it being like a book or a record. In fact, it is streams of energy. And so we have even more freedom than ever. And I want to show you a little graphic that I produced. So if you imagine that you, as a person, you have an imprint, and let's feel it in your heart, the imprint of your soul's blueprint, and you're moving around with that. And it tends to be speaking to our intuition and moving us around, and we're following our excitement, and we're creating, and we're following our heart, following our bliss, all of those things. And so there's this spark, this imprint, this light that is driving us within our being, within our person. And this is a frequency that is connected. We always think of it as expanded way up high in the far reaches of whatever we can imagine. That's the soul holding its blueprint, holding its spark of that frequency. And so this is what we have going on. I'm going to pull up a graphic here. And take me just 1 second to share it correctly. There we go. Sorry, I didn't have this queued up as I thought I did. All right. So, okay, here we go. So you see this, we have this slide here that I had a doll E, I had an image generator make. So you see that person who is that point of light, and then you see the point of light that's basically up in the galaxies. And then you see those strings of light that are bending around. You see a kind of main frequency that's up there. So that's like your alignment that we're talking about. Then we have these strings that kind of bend out. And that's when we go off our path of light to do something else. We might also think of those as how we can bridge out into touching parallel timelines. And so what we have available to us is we can actually have a superposition, meaning we can exist in all of those parallel timelines, but only that which is of the highest benefit, and collapse all of those together so that we are able to have that highest possible alignment and that most powerful frequency, so that we can basically move as quickly as 10 septillion, whatever the hex those are. We can move faster than the universe. Imagine that there is times when those streams, we have a broader stream that is that really thick stream, and that it can collapse together and become a purer stream like that. That's the idea. I wanted to give you a visual of it. Sometimes that helps us. That's the idea that we're talking about here. That is what we are collapsing. As we go to the records, we're finding ways to collapse all of those streams, all of those data streams together, so that we have that fast and pure and dynamic and amazing, exactly what you are here to do. So that's what we're here to do in this class, is to draw from those alternate streams so that we have the highest benefit. We're going to experience data streams, all of those. We actually experience them as stories and narratives, emotional processes. And that's why when we go to the Akashic Records, we tend to find stories and examples, and all of that is how it actually is manifest into your reality. So the soul will hold the pure code, and then the bad code, if you will, the code that we've learned enough from, we're going to just pull that back. And when we hold on to fear, judgment, or resistance, that's when we kind of get into bad code. But everything is used. There's nothing wasted by the universe. We learn from it anyway. But we'll just be aware of any time that we have fear, judgment, or resistance, because we would like to come into alignment as quickly as possible, learn as quickly as possible. That's just the way of creation, that we always will have moments of fear, judgment, and resistance, and we just hope to reduce how long we might hold on to those. But still, even if we hold on to them for a long time, the journey back is just as sweet and the learning is just as great. And so this is why we call on the Holy Om. We're calling back to an ancient learning that we had a long time ago, and we're bringing it into that pure alignment. We veered off into other projections of what Creator may be as some kind of human, as in some anthropomorphized being. But we're calling back to the primordial tone of the universe. We're calling back to Om. We're calling back to your true stories. And in that, the possibilities are unlimited. Okay, everyone. I know we talked for quite a while here. I want to open the floor up to you. And we're going to get into some specific techniques too, but I want to hear from you guys. Comments, questions. What's going on?
Hi, Tricia.
Hi, Rocky.
Yeah, so it's been wonderful so far. And when you were doing the attunement initially, that during that journey, I felt nothing. I was unable to connect. And then slowly I started seeing a purple light. And just now, the picture that you showed, I'm still, I can't believe it. I have goosebumps when I suddenly felt like this electric current going and touching somewhere with this purple light. I'm like, and you showed this picture, I'm like, that's exactly what I felt. But it was all purple aura all over. Initially, it was completely black. And I'm Piscean. I know I have been intuitive since my childhood. But I got the last few years, I've been, I don't know why. It's been more like I feel drawn, that I am more intuitive. I somehow have this new thing that has come up. If I want to know what my client is thinking, there is one, personal hobby that I have. I listen to all kinds of songs. Somehow if I'm just unable to connect with the client, and if I call on my intuition, I get a song in my head.
I love it.
And I don't know what's going on. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that's beautiful. Oh, that's wonderful. And you know what? And that's something we're actually addressing. And when we talk about we keep talking a bit, if you feel nothing, and as you know, Rocky, we say, well, there's not really any way to feel nothing because you are a living human being. But if it seems as though you're feeling or seeing nothing, then that is exactly what you need at the time. And just allow yourself to kind of bask in that light of the universe that is always on you.
Right.
Yeah.
And to let go of this
Let go.
ego voice that you were talking about. He's always in our head thinking
Yeah.
about different things. So just the moment I let go, and initially I was very, my spirit, my soul was a bit resistant. But moment I let go, I saw that purple aura and that connection. So
That's so
thank you so
cool.
much.
Thank you for sharing. That's very cool. It's so much like the image that was there. Yeah. Anyone else? You want to share or ask anything? All right, then. Go ahead, Lori. Sure. Thanks.
So when you describe the Akashic or the Akasha,
Mhm.
I feel a little confused about what we're actually talking about, and you're trying to define it. And I'm sensing that it's many things. It's not just one. Is that right? It's kind of a living, breathing thing, but it's also documents, and it's all that.
Well, yes, yes, and so I mean, you could say it's documents if that helps you. As the Akasha is a highly sensitive it is the primary substance. And again, any vibration of all makes an imprint on it. So then a vibration of a vibration of a thought or feeling, and of course, things that are more developed would be like stories, narratives. Narratives are what help us to make sense of things, right? Help us to hold on to things. And so that's how it might, it does seem like documents, because we're thinking of how we would record a story. And that's why, and that is what it was initially before we had other way. But the thing is, if I'm telling you a story, it doesn't have to go into a document, right? I'm saying this right now. You're receiving it. It's coming along the tones of my voice, all of the ways that it's being delivered, the frequencies. Even, Lori, you know about energy healing. When someone sends you energy healing, it doesn't necessarily get put into a document. It may not even be spoken. It can just be sent. All of that is recorded or imprinted upon the Akasha. It is the field of everything. It is the 0 point. And so the Akashic Records, it is us getting into alignment with that, again, that blueprint. Now, when we go to, as we're going to learn the technique of it, when we go to the Akashic Records and we open them, we will get impressions. We will get the impressions that will help us to answer that story. Answer that question. It could be a story. It could be a past life. It could be, any of the various things that, were you here at the beginning? Did you come late by any chance?
No, I was here.
Oh, okay. So I gave you the 2 answers that I got when I asked when I opened the Akashic Records and just said, what kinds of examples of Akashic Record, answers can I give? And they gave me 2 very, one that was just kind of like a message, and another one that was an image. It was an image, or either a past life, or, like I said, I think it was both a past life and this life, a moment that repeated itself in this life. So that's what was delivered as pictures, as words, or as some kind of a narrative. Is that helping?
Yeah, I'm just sort of trying to picture or encompass all that it is, and so it feels like it is many things. It's just evidence of everything
Yes.
that's ever been, right? But I see this like storyteller, or the person in a village who is the medicine person and also holds the stories for the village and knows all the babies that were born and all the illnesses that have taken place and those that have passed and all their stories. It's a magnification of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can be about, yes, it's about all of the and also what could be, though. That's the thing, because we're also working in the, yes, because of the things that you have imagined that could be, and because all time is simultaneous, the eventualities are also there. Now, how do we know that we're picking up on the future or eventualities? It's not really something that is easy for our vessels to translate. And so sometimes even the parallel or the future timelines come to us, and then maybe they come to us as like that one story that I had today. I thought it was a past life. That could also be a future life, you know? So it comes to us in the best way that we could possibly receive it. But yes, even because time is simultaneous, so we're working in eventualities, possibilities, eventualities, and also, like, for example, just to blow our minds a little bit more, one day you're at the end of the road and you're like, wait, am I going to go to the store first, or am I going to go straight to my friend's house? I'll go to my friend's house. Store first version of you kept going. That's imprinted on the Akasha. Yeah. And so imagining that, let's say if that storyline of going down the street, and there was some kind of benefit that was available in that storyline, you can call that in even though you didn't physically do it. And it might show up to you as like, maybe that story can be told to you from the records. Maybe that's one of them. Will we ever truly know if it's a parallel timeline? I don't know. It's not necessarily important. What's important is the benefit that it gives you. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does? Okay,
Thank you.
good. Sure. Hi, Lisa, go ahead.
I had something happen a couple days ago that reminded me of the story you shared when you were promoting this course, where you were on the plane and you started to feel nervous, and then your cat came to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my son was coming home from college, and he lives, I mentioned I'm in Michigan, so we're getting snow and yucky weather right now. And he's at college, and he was coming home, and it's about a 2-hour drive. So I was really stressed, and I sent him a text and I said, please let me know when you leave and let me know as soon as you get home. And I don't like to project my nervous feelings onto him because I know he's a good driver and all that kind of stuff. But 2 seconds later, after I sent him that text, a text popped up on my phone very clearly. Like, I read it, and it was from my ex-husband. And he said, he's standing in the kitchen with me right now. And then it disappeared. And so I called him, and because I looked at him, like, that text was not there, but I very clearly saw it. So I called him and I said, hey, is Hudson there? And he goes, no, he's on his way. And then I just immediately was flooded with, that was for you to know that he's going to come. He's going to be fine. He's going to be standing in the kitchen before you know it. You don't need to be so worried about these kind of things. Like, nothing's going to happen to him right now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
is that like, I guess my question is that, are those little like trinkets of me kind of tapping into things, or those are, I call it a gift because it helped me to stop being stressed and worried about him.
Yeah, because you felt it, right? You felt it viscerally. Like, so yes, I think that's a great example. Thank you for that. And in case y'all didn't hear it, what she's referring to, I was talking about when I was on an airplane once. I got this flush of like fear for no reason because I'm not afraid of flying. And Barnabas, my cat Barnabas, astral projected to me. And this was like 8 years ago. And he brought with him the future. He brought with him our future Akashic records. I could feel them because I could feel him like right there with me. And I felt him saying, like, bringing with him, like, no, we have all these years that we're still creating. I could feel them. And so, yeah, I think that's great, Lisa. So you got an image of it so that it could help you to receive it. And again, it's like, that's how the attunement really happens, with words, with pictures, with the ways, and you know, as we know as hypnotherapists, we call those ideomotor impressions. Ideo means that it's like subconscious, where it's energy, and then motor means physical. So because you were able to see it physically, or I mean, you saw it spiritually, but it seemed as though you saw it physically because it became so real for you. Then you didn't even have to wait for him to show up to your ex's house. You felt it. It was an eventuality that was definitely happening. Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you for that. What a great share. I appreciate that. Does that help too, Lori? It's kind of funky, but you know what we live. You know how we live. Rocky, go right ahead.
Yeah, so Tricia, also in Hindi, Akasha means the sky too. Sky, so it's all enveloping. Now, I remember from my childhood, there were these books, like spiritual books, like for kids, Tinkle. And in that, there was a story where, there is a boy who's always wanting to win, and always. So, and whenever he lost, he was very angry. So there was this spiritual person who came and told that, okay, you cannot win all the time. And once when you lose, thank the universe because there is somebody else who has been losing every time he or she won. So, it's the energy. You can't be a winner all the time. Each time you're not winning, there's somebody else winning. We each have our place in the universe and we each get our chance.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Hi, Kate. Go ahead.
Hey, I was curious, is this, how would you relate this to Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks vortex?
Oh, the vortex. Yeah, thank you that's a good question. You know what how I relate to her vortex? Okay, so when I had a QHHT session, and you may have heard this story before. I had a QHHT session in 2016, I think, and in my Life Between Lives session, I was at the place where basically I was in my soul. I was at the perspective of the soul, and we were I say we because it was like there were others there, and we were creating a vortex of energy that was going to basically be dispatched into a life, to create a life. So it was data streams, really. It was like I was the one who was in charge, but I would go and confer with someone, and it would be like, well, this you're considering this, and then like if I conferred with someone, it was still up to me, but they would kind of talk it over with, soundboard it with me, counsel me, and then from that one that I talked to, I actually got a little piece of their energy, and that became a part of it, and then we dispatched it into this vortex of data streams, and it was swirling. And then at some point it was like, okay, this vortex is complete. And then we compared it to a time space. You know what I mean? Like it could have been any time, it could have been anywhere, but it could have been another planet, and it could have been some other place on the planet, but it was that time and that place that would give it the greatest opportunity. It was like, that's the part of the garden that it's going to have its best opportunity to grow the most. So then when it was dispatched from the soul, going through the higher self, and then you think about it, a vortex like a whirlpool, spinning this way, that then created another vortex from the earth, and then that's summoning up the elements that's actually creating it. Now and it collapses here, these two vortices, by the way. Science even shows us that our electromagnetic field is actually a torus. It's actually two vortices, one pointed downward, one pointing upward, and connecting here in the center point, which is basically our heart. So this is the center for love and direction. It's how we get to utilize our free will, but we have an indelible imprint of that vortex, but then it's also being sent into the earth and called up from the earth. So that's the vortex I've always related to. Get into the vortex. It's like that blueprint. It's that all of those possibilities. Anyway, does that make sense? That's how, I don't know if
It does.
I've never talked to her, so.
I've only listened to her myself and read her, so it helps me to hold the paradox a little bit more lightly.
Yes. And by the way, the earth has a kind of Akashic field too. And hers is her crystalline grid. And that is that the earth, between, as we did in the opening, where we connected from ourselves into the earth and her crystal core, and that communication, that frequency is also being recorded in the earth. And then also is a part of that is when we die, when we pass on, when anything dies, and the imprint that has been made on that material goes back to the earth. And then I wondered before if that's how we are being reincarnated. One of the ways that we experience reincarnation, if not the way, is because the speck of dust that has created me is a speck of dust that created me 100 years ago. I don't know. So anyway, we can get all wackadoodle, can't we? That's a great question. Thank you. Hi, Erica.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. I just have a quick question, and I think I'm overthinking it too much. So I'm very similar to you, all the same training, mediumship, and psychic and tarot. So I think my brain gets a little caught up because if I'm doing the intuitive healing work, right, and I'm just receiving, and I'm just receiving the messages or picking up on the psychic energy. But with this, I think it always kind of confuses me because I'm like, okay, if you're going in, are you receiving it like an intuitive? Or you feel like, I'm like, oh God, see, my brain's even overthinking. Like, am I getting messages? I'm trying to imagine how this looks.
Yeah. You know what? And I'm going to teach us a specific technique, and that'll really help. But I will tell you that, yes, of course, it's using your intuitive faculties. Because if I open the records the way that I'm receiving them, no one walks in the door and sits down and says, hi, my name's Tim. I'm going to tell you what's in the records. It is receiving them through all of the same intuitive faculties, whether it's, images, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance. It's coming in all of those different ways. Not only that, I'll talk about it I'm going to talk about it in a second. It might sound different. It might sometimes be very symbolic, and other times be formal, other times be playful, and other times be, so yeah, there's all kinds. Imagine all of the stories that ever have been or could be. all of the impressions that could possibly help you. And I know it seems like I'm going to narrow it down, though, into a very specific process that's going to help, though. And yet the one section is like where your intuitive senses are going to, know exactly what to do.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure. Hi, Amina.
Hello. So I think everyone asked those questions that I was going to ask. But basically, when we are doing Reiki, when we are meditating and receiving downloads, we are actually receiving that information from the Akashic Records, question mark.
Possibly, but you could also be receiving it. So if you think about, I guess there's no way there is something that isn't the Akashic Records. You know what I mean? In a manner of speaking. Yeah. So what we're learning here is a way to go very cleanly into the Akashic Records with a specific process and it's going to help you to bring it in through that particular channel, if you will. It will make sense here in just a bit. But yeah, of course, it's like I'll say if you've never done this process or if you've never heard of the Akashic Records, then I'm sure I think you've accessed the Akashic Records because you've had transformations in your life, right? So yeah.
Yeah, like people ask me like, how did you get the name Amina? And I'm like, I don't know. I just sat in meditation and it came as a frequency, not. And I asked, what is this frequency? And the frequency, which then became a texture, which then translated to Amina. So, and hearing all this, I'm like, okay, so was that a download from the Akasha? I just kept saying, oh, I think my spirit guides just popped it in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you this also, through creating this course and everything, they showed me that practicing the Akashic Records in a specific way, because we're going to talk about the Council of Light that is overseeing, this process for you. Everyone's, if you call it the Akashic Council of Light or your Divine Council of Light, and that particular council, developing the relationship with them is when we tend to be like, just hearing or seeing or getting that guidance, and we just say they, just spirit, because we're talking about a council that is actually anonymous because they do not want to take anything away from us. And I'm going to go into that lesson here in a bit. And that doesn't negate the value of connecting with, your past loved ones or Archangel Michael, or so. It doesn't negate that value. It's just that this is, again, the intent, the purpose of this specific modality. The main purpose is to help you as the individuated person to feel strongly empowered as a co-author, entirely empowered, so that as you are moving, so that you are connected to, as we've talked about, the thy will. I mean, we haven't talked about here today, thy will, and we're borrowing this, I know it sounds like religious language, but it's not what it's meaning, is the sense I have a personal will, my soul has a will, and so I'm making that through connection to thy will so that I can run, so that my personal will is so completely attuned to thy will, to the soul's will, that I can run. I'm that strong co-author, So that's the idea of it. But to answer your question, yes, I imagine absolutely that sounds like that was something that was being brought in by, maybe that Divine Council of Light. And again, not to negate any times that we do. Sometimes it's really helpful to me, and I think even like this, this Council of Light that I tend to walk around saying they without any names. They go, don't forget, you need to talk sometimes to like an angel. You do need a benchmark of some kind of energy that helps you to get some, distinction, differentiation. Yeah. Does that help? Yeah. Thank you. Hey, Anna. Excuse me.
I'm gonna unmute. I have funky lighting because I don't like to turn the lights on when it gets dark. So I have like candles and stuff like that. So hi everybody. Maybe I'll show my face when the light is out. So I guess I have two questions. One One is, if I'm understanding correctly, there's a way, and I think you just used the term co-create. There's a way in which we can access the Akashic records, and in a sense, okay, I think it's like choice. Like we can have some choice around, uh, different timelines or different realities, so to say. Is that
Um, well, you know what we do when we go into the records, we have our question that we ask, and like one of the things that you could ask is like, is there a past life that would help me to know about now? You could ask that kind of a question, but you know what? Uh, they're going to always direct you to the heart of the thing that will be your highest benefit. So, I mean, sure, you could say, what do I need to know about a past life for, this particular situation? And maybe they'll be like, yeah, there's a past life we can help you with. Is that what you mean? Or you could say, I want to call in this timeline. Well, yeah, really, what's the root of that question, though? Like, why would we want to call in a timeline? What do I need to know about feeling freer or more abundant or more confident? That'd probably be even a better way to go to the records about it with a little more openness so that you can receive. Either way, they would redirect you if that wasn't the highest benefit. Am I getting the question?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that
Oh,
makes,
okay.
makes sense. And then the other question I have is where do dreams fall into this potentially?
Yeah, great. Good question. Well, dreams have a lot of function. Dreams, and one of the functions of dreams is that they are helping us to release psychological, psychic energies that we're just done with. And so, like, there are 3 stages of dreaming, and the typical, like, psychological dreaming benefit of it. The first stage of dreaming is just basically like, just kind of dumping things, like just like if you're sorting through the mail and you're throwing things away. And the second part of dreaming is you're actually trying to, your brain, your mind is trying to imagine what could possibly happen because it wants to rehearse. It wants to have a dress rehearsal and be ready. And then the third stage of dreaming is when you're really like processing, you're having safe hallucinations. This is when you're like, oh my gosh, I was with you, but you weren't really you. You were my mom. And then I was so mad at you, I punched you in the face. You know what I mean? Like you're getting out safe hallucinations, frustrations of things that you no longer need, traumas that you no longer need. So all of that, it's really that's a mind body processing. And so, yeah, those are stories, if you want to say. They're basically narratives or data streams, a lot of those, especially in the venting dreams, that you need to release and send back to the Akasha so that it can be, basically, it's been fully processed now, and it might then go into and dismantle itself and be reorganized, diffused into the Akasha because it's fully moved out of your being, you see. Same thing with any other kind of, let's say, shadow work. When you discover, oh, I no longer need that belief, and you release it, that can go back into the Akasha and disassemble or, just change form, because energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just changes form. And so that's literally what the Akasha is doing. When you release something, you've released it now, and the Akasha will release it too, because that's the imprint you're making upon it. Does that help?
It does. And I feel, and this has been very recent for me, where I've had certain dreams where I'm like, they don't fall into any of the categories that you just listed. And one specific, and I won't go into all the details, but to me, it was like, I'm like, I don't know where this is come. It's not related to anything that I was like consuming, meaning like watching or reading. It wasn't something that I was dealing with, but it was really, it was really disturbing. Part of it was that I was in this place where I was witnessing these people harvesting human skins to make like leather goods. I mean, it was like nothing. I've never had dreams like that. And I was like, am I just like in some kind of alternate reality? Like, have I tapped in? I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't want to go back, but um,
Yeah, so I was just describing again, like that's one of, well, there's three functions within one function of dreams. Those are your typical ones. It's what we do most nights. But there's other things. I mean, sometimes we do just pull in energies from the outside. And maybe the symbolism of that is something that you pulled in. Maybe it's not literal in the sense that someone's actually doing that, but maybe if the energy beneath it is something that you've just picked up on, again, in the ether. We also have intuitive dreaming, we have lucid dreaming, and then we can astral project from our dream state. So there's a lot of other stuff that goes on while we're asleep, if you will, that is in the dreamland. But there are also dimensions and densities of dreaming, because it is in the non-physical. But what I described is what we typically do and we really, really need for our mind-body process. But there's many other things, other functions of dreaming, just like there's other functions of conscious waking or somewhere between waking reality. Like when we meditate, when we channel, that's neither awake nor asleep. It's those are liminal states. So dreaming also has many different liminal states within it too, many different dimensions and densities, if you will.
yeah. Okay. That's super helpful. It was just so, it just came up. I was like, oh, I wonder where like this dreaming realm falls in. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. Thanks. Yeah. Hey, Amina.
Sorry to, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole with this dreaming thing, but I was just wondering if we can visit our past lives in dream state as well, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
I think
I wake up and I'm like, who were those people? And who was that? And not recognizing myself or any of that stuff.
yeah, you might be visiting past lives. Also, it could also be, so some of the people who I spend a lot of time with in astral mastery, I mostly don't dream as myself. And I've wondered what that has to do with my energy makeup. And it might have to do, like there's actually a part, you might be able to see something about it in your dream design, which is an aspect of the human design chart. And I think that might be why I have that, because I have in my design, I have one of the cross special gates, which is also one of the dream design gates. And I think it just makes me really, I don't know, a kind of weird activity. So anyway, there's all kinds of reasons or ways that I think that it could be past lives, but it could be, again, what you're processing and what dimensions you're traveling through during your dream state and the reasons why you would be doing that and how that benefits, this. So yeah, maybe you might say how you're traveling through the Akasha for your benefit, what it is that your soul would like to expose you to. Again, it's a safe way to do it, because you don't, if you really did see people harvesting human skins for leather, that you would not just be able to come to class and talk about it. You'd be still sitting in the corner like this. But you know what I mean? Like, but it's all in the areas of non-physical. So yeah, dreamland is a wild place. Awesome. Good stuff, guys. Where are we on time? Okay, great. Do y'all need a break? Do you need a 5-minute break to use the restroom or something? Lori says yes. How long? 5, 10? Do we want to do 10? 10-minute break? Okay, 10. We'll do 10. We'll come back at 10 past. It's about 11 minutes then. All right, everyone. Okay, we're going to get into some of the meat of all of the technique. And so away we go. Let's put a little framework around how reading the Akashic Records as a modality is similar, or how it differentiates from other modalities. And then we're going to get into the actual technique, which will definitely help to give that framework around it. we're also going to talk about the Council of Light. So the first thing is about the Akashic Records or Akashic Record readings. The point of this, the main thing is to help the person. So I'll refer to like the incarnated being aspect of you as person, for the person as opposed to a soul, right? That the person, for the person to have the most empowered experience restoring their co-authorship, feeling so empowered, really what, that thing that the law of attraction is trying to teach us. I can do this, I can manifest. And, so how it differentiates from the law of attraction is that, the law of attraction is, well, how it's same as the law of attraction is the idea is that it raises your vibration. And that's kind of when the law of attraction is actually taught correctly, appropriately, is to raise your vibration, and then you'll be able to, essentially come into alignment with manifestation. Now, sometimes, and this is not like good, if you will, teaching of law of attraction, or at least how sometimes receive law of attraction teaching is that there is this manifestation from the mind that we talked about at the very beginning. This is this passenger mind in manifesting from the mind is not actually taking into consideration the bigger picture that the soul is holding. It's sometimes wanting to manifest from a place of fear in order to escape something. In addition to even with the good teachings of the law of attraction, is that the Akashic Records is helping. I would say the Akashic Records supports you in being able to move into your manifestation techniques by those sessions to help to restore you to your aligned frequency with your soul, through the reviewal of whatever kinds of narratives or recoding that the Akashic Records will present for you. And that's what we're talking about, is we're talking about data streams and frequency. We are operating under coding. We are very much ones and zeros like everything else. In the same way we are the four elements, the four physical elements, we are also really a code. We are operating from a code. Now we are co-authoring that code, and sometimes we don't realize that we are. So by being able to access the records, we receive examples of other code or aligned code that will help us to be able to shift and move out bad code or old stories, old narratives, old beliefs. So that's one way that we could say. Now, how it is. And the other thing about Akashic Record readings is that we are going on the vertical plane, purely on the vertical plane. Other modalities might go along the horizontal plane. They might draw from the vertical plane and then they move to the horizontal plane. And that can be a beneficial way to work too, with counseling or with hypnotherapy. A lot of times, even if you're channeling from that person's soul in order to deliver it on the horizontal plane. And then also there's some kinds of, sometimes psychics or intuitives are really just tapping into the person directly on the horizontal plane and then, discovering what is there. The other thing is that we're going to see here when we open up the specific modality is that we're not going to be interpreting what's coming from the records, not in the specific modality that I'm going to teach you. And that is what we do tend to do with intuitive readings. We get a symbol and we interpret it. We get some message and we interpret it. And that is a valuable process. But when I teach you the process, I'm going to ask you to keep the modality on its own. And then when you want to synthesize it, you just close the records and then you do your next thing. But again, I'm going to teach you about that. I just have to contextualize it and how I'm telling you that they're different and the same. I would say that there is what it does have in common with other kinds of spiritual modalities is that it is using your non-physical or your psychic senses in order to be able to receive the information that's coming through. It has to come through as a vision, an image, some words, a picture, a narrative, or a sudden knowing or sensing. It does have to come in that way, but how we handle it and what the purpose of it is slightly has its own little set of, of function that we're going to be unpacking. It has a little bit in common with mediumship and a little bit in common with channeling. In common with mediumship because we are basically receiving the information, and we're receiving it from a council. And I'm going to talk about how that council is actually anonymous. So it's dissimilar from mediumship because mediumship might be your grandfather is here. It's not going to have your grandfather there. It's going to be presence that is actually delivering it. And you might even sense a kind of quality of that presence, but it's not going, the idea of the Council of Light, their whole purpose of staying anonymous is to further empower the person. And I'll break that down a little bit more here in a second. What it has in common with channeling is that in channeling, the information is received and not interpreted. It is just given. And so that is the function that we will find familiar if you're a channel. What it has not in common with channeling is that a lot of times channeling, you have a profound sense of that frequency coming into your form as it's delivered, and that may not be the case. It may seem you may not seem altered at all as you are opening the records and allowing that flow to come to you. You may, but you may not. A lot of times this just sounds like it's very matter of fact coming to me. But, whatever occurs for you will be just right, and it might be different a lot of the times. So let me talk about how your Akashic Council of Light, or you might say your Divine Council of Light, is anonymous. And the reason for that is so that you can take full responsibility. And so that's something that might take some of us a little practice to get accustomed to, because we might have a habit of reaching for an individual in spirit, reaching for angels or our specific guides who are there. But the Council of Light stands behind an anonymous shield, even though you sense them and hear them, or they're sending you the visions. Like I said, the purpose of it is for you to have that full experience for the person, whoever is receiving the reading, to take full power. And so they actually want to not be known. Is there do you want to speculate who's there? Are they angels? Are they past loved ones? I think my speculation is yes. But when they step behind that Council of Light lectern, if you will, they are just, they're not there to be known. They're there for you to be known. Now, and I think, I should say that by calling them the Council of Light, that is in of itself giving you the benchmark of going to them. And that's the point of having a name for an angel, Michael. I mean, Michael is greater than the name Michael, but the name Michael helps us to benchmark that energy so that we can return to it, and also to help us to have collaborative experiences. How you experience Michael is similar to the way I experience Michael, or I had a spontaneous experience of Michael, never having heard that someone else. And so we feel this validation by a community standpoint. So Council of Light, your Council of Light, that is the identity that they present in order to deeply empower you. Now, I want to contextualize that with the fact that, yes, I said Metatron has been supporting me in creating this program. And that seems like, well, what are you talking about then? You said there's no, but I'm not actually working with my Council of Light for this program. Well, I am somewhat, but I'm also working with Metatron to create it for you, because it has to do with more than just me. It has to do with all of us. In Metatron, Archangel Metatron, you may be familiar with him, I'm not sure. I do tend to feel him as a masculine energy. Metatron calls forth those in their spiritual mission. And so he's really just been overseeing this and helping things to really give me a dynamic kind of push in certain areas. And he has been calling all of us forward. So having said that, Metatron's overseeing this. It's not that he's going to be sitting on your council. I don't know, or maybe he is, but he will be anonymous if he's doing that. So now what I'm going to ask you to do, and just prefacing it, we're going to get into the technique. I'm going to be asking you to, as we do the invocation, then we open the records, we pull through the information, and we just record it, whether we're writing it down, typing it, speaking it. If you were giving it to someone else, then you would be speaking it, and not interpret it. Give it plainly. Give it as, all of the details. You might need to pause to get more details. as plainly as possible without any interpretation while that transmission is open. And that is just a way for the pure stream of soul to come through and settle in the person before the mind begins to, be the passenger, be the cooperative component to interpret it. And that's, again, something you can start to synthesize it, but I'm going to tell you how I think we can do that more specifically with the technique. So actually, let's one last thing about how Akashic record reading differs from just, your intuition. Well, in a similar way, as we receive those Akashic healings, then our intuition is better attuned. And so then it is that sense of feeling like you can follow your intuition. Your intuition is clearer for you, and you're moving along the plane with that confidence in your co-authorship with your soul. So your intuition is kind of guiding you, your intuition is guiding you in every moment by the sense of that impression of alignment, of your self-acceptance, your self-love, and your motivation to pursue that. And so it actually, the more that you're healing through the records is going to just tune up your intuition. But, it's still not those two, they're just two different ways that we're, having just intuition and going into the records. It's using those intuitive faculties, but we have a specific way that we're doing that. So one thing that we are going to want to be aware of that is very utilizable, very, very foundational to the Akashic record readings is that column of light, that pillar of light. When you are in the process of the invocation and receiving the frequency and delivering the information either to yourself or someone else, you might come back to the awareness. Be aware of that pillar of light that you've called in. And it is actually called in when you, in the actual invocation, you open your heart. And so while you are in a reading for yourself or someone else, you might take a moment to just bring your awareness to that column of light that is extending from this plane to the soul. Now, if you're with someone else, you have that opened for both of you. And it is for that person's soul, but you are a part of it, and you are bringing through the frequency through that. The frequency of the Akasha, of your Akashic records, flows from heart to heart, meaning from to your heart, the heart of the person, from the Akasha, from the heart of the Akasha, or actually from the heart of your soul, because your soul is holding your heart of the Akasha. So that is just a few little tidbits about the distinctions of Akashic record readings. And again, this is going to become clearer and clearer, especially in the next part here, because we're going to start to open up the specific technique by looking at the Akashic frequency invocation. And that's the specific technique. So get that PDF out if you have it available. Otherwise, I'm just going to show it on the screen in the next lesson. There it is. Sorry, it's taking me a second to find where I did that. Okay. All right, this is the heart of it. Set you up a little bit there by explaining the Council of Light, that they are anonymous, and that in the receiving of the information, we refrain from interpreting so that we can receive that pure Akashic frequency as much as possible. And so we have our Akashic invocation. This technique is, why is that turning blue? That is weird. All right, let me do this another way. Mercury retrograde is over, right? I'm just going to open it up and show it directly in Zoom. It should work out just fine. And now that software is being a jerk. Okay, here it goes. Okay, y'all see that okay? Okay, thank you. All right, so here we are in the heart of the technique, the Akashic frequency invocation. Invocation is that we're calling in the frequency, we're invoking, we're calling in the frequency, and we're invoking and calling in the Council of Light. Now, this is very precisely channeled and crafted. And this is intended, it has the reciting of it has the specific codes to align you, to align the practitioner to the resonance of the Akashic field, to resonate with it. Each word and phrase within it of this invocation has been very carefully channeled for its unique attuning properties and its ability to create that harmony with fractal frequencies of the Akasha, all of the tiny, every little word, every little, and then also a part of it is when you deliver it, you are also activating all of these minuscule little fractals of harmonics. You are going to become the magic. So it's more than just words. They really are delivering a vibrational key to the records themselves. So as we talked a little bit about in the invocation, we are acknowledging the Akasha as the foundational essence of existence and born from that holy Om. And we talked about that in the first lesson as the Akasha is the substance upon which consciousness acts and yet remains whole. The Akasha is the substance upon which consciousness acts and yet it remains whole, even as it is modified by the impressions of individual consciousnesses. It still remains unchanged. I know it's a bit of, again, a paradox, but think about waves of the ocean. The ocean is unchanged by the waves within it, you see? And so that is what the Akasha, as it is being acted upon, impressed by the acts of consciousnesses like ours, and yet it remains whole in itself. Well, I guess unchanged isn't the right word. It is changed, but it's still whole, right? The ocean is changed, it is modified, but there is no detraction from it. And so this interconnectedness is what is showing us the infinite potential of the Akashic field. More than just events, it's dynamic and causally active as a substance that holds the essence of all existence. So in the invocation, there is this word in here. Spirit gave me this word in here, and I was like wrestling with it, and they really explained to me that this is maybe a word that we don't typically use, but it's very important. It's highlighting the relationship between Akasha and consciousness. And here is to exist intrinsically and inseparably within, just as the Akasha does with consciousness. It's that same relationship that creator was not creator until creator created. So it's almost a mutual existential relationship. In order for creator to be a creator had to create you. And that is what we are highlighting here in this word in here. That's what in here means. It's in here, you might recognize it from inherent. So we are mutually inherent, the Akasha and us. So that's there's thus a mutually inherent existence between individual consciousness and the Akasha. And so the Akasha receives modification by consciousness, and yet itself is not a mode. It is not a mode, meaning it is not a particular form or method. It is not a method, even though it receives modification. And I know some of this stuff might be a little, you can contemplate it later, but these is just really important. Spirit asked me to put this in here. So as we are amplifying the ability to receive and transmit divine light, that's what we're doing with this invocation. We're emphasizing Holy Om as that primordial tone, where we call in the one light of awareness. Remember, every time we say light, we're referring to awareness. We're not referring to density or color tones. We're referring to awareness. And that is what we're calling in as that divine clarity. So these elements will help us to move into a state of trust and receptivity and alignment for the highest benefit. And I have been instructed for us to, as much as possible, we often say highest good or highest happiness. And for this, they really emphasize, they would like for us to consider, as we're talking about accessing the records, that the slight shift to benefit, to think of the Akasha as always beneficent, and your council of light as always beneficent, and that we're working toward the highest benefit, because benefit means something that has been gained, something that has a sense of growth to it. And sometimes good, I like the word good, but they're saying sometimes we associate good with as opposed to bad, right? So I might still use good sometimes. I'm just saying, I'm just following what seems to be working for this. So remember, we're transmitting and we are optimizing the transmission for the highest benefit of all. So we're opening a portal to the Akashic Field, anchoring ourselves into a state of divine attunement, and this will ensure that the reading is transformative and guided by light, guided by love and infinite wisdom. So this is the actual, oh no, that's right. We got one more thing here. So how the frequency transmit, it is manifest into the physical plane through your intention. First of all, your intention is how it's transmitting, how it's actually coming to the physical plane. And then also with the voice, and that could be the outer voice, speaking voice. It could be the inner voice. And also by visualization or knowing, any of those kinds of awarenesses. So we're aligning our intention, and then we're speaking the words of the invocation. And then we're also facilitating the opening of the records for either ourselves or another. Now, there are a couple of other points here. By the way, I just want to say that this, you can meditate before, but there is, as long as you are aligning your intention to the invocation, the shift will occur. If you said it like just blankly, like bada 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 bada, then you're not really aligning your intention with it. But if you just take a few breaths and move into it, this shift will occur. That's how this is designed. So there are a couple of places where we say a name. And I have this written two ways. One for if you're doing it for yourself, which is what we're going to practice today, and the one for if you're doing it for another. And so in one section, you use your first name familiar. So my familiar first name is Tricia, but my birth name is Patricia. So I would say Tricia. In this line, I would say, I, Tricia, open my heart in complete trust in divine light. I decree my divine right to receive truth, wisdom, and knowledge. And you actually say that 3 times. So I would say that 3 times. I, Tricia, open my heart. So while we're doing that, we hold that visualization of the column of pure light extending from the top of the universe and moving through the soul star chakra, flowing to the heart, and continuing down into the crystal core of the earth. So just while you're saying that, I open my heart, you just have that column of light. You don't have to overthink it. Like, is it hitting the soul star and is it hitting my heart? Is it do-do? Just know that it is. I'm just explaining it now. And then you can kind of let it go and just bring in that visualization of the column of light. So, for yourself, if you're holding that vision for yourself, then you just hold it for yourself. And if you were doing a reading for another, then you would include the person in, the sitter in that column, that sacred resonance field. So then it is the Akasha frequency is transmitted into those different forms that are words that are spoken, written, images, acknowledged, or deep intuitive knowing. Again, just like it would be using all of your intuitive faculties. And if you are newer to actually using your non-physical or your intuitive senses, and if at any time you're like, well, nothing is, if you felt the urge to say, I'm not getting anything, then find yourself as, I have it in here, that flower basking in the sun. That means that at this time, exactly precisely what you need is to be still and know that you are loved. And that is just, you are being attuned anyway. If you align your attention with the invocation, you will be attuned. And then that's a beautiful experience as well. Okay, so as I said, we're going to refrain from interpreting or analyzing the transmission until after we close the transmission. Likewise, I want to encourage us, well, I'll tell you that afterward. So yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Let's see, is there anything else for me to tell you in here? Free of interpretation. Trust that whatever is arising during the transmission, that's right. So when you're bringing forth the information, and if you have a question about it, you don't have to stop and ask the question. Just know that it's going to be folded in as you continue to let the information flow. So just continue to let it flow. You don't have to like change and ask another question, And that's another piece that we want to make sure. Oh, also that after you close the transmission, you can sit and contemplate about it, you can interpret it, you can journal about it. And if it's a reading for someone else, you're also going to be activating the principle of delayed response, which means that that frequency was received, and then it's going to continue to work in you. So your ponderings, your insights, your different realizations that come even later, that is that beautiful growth process underway. So there's the what if nothing happens. So here's the invocation. Now we're just going to look at it right now without actually aligning with it, because before we actually do the invocation, we do need to prepare our questions. So I'm just revealing this to you now, just to get us an overview of it. So doing an Akashic frequency invocation for yourself. You would say all of this, and then this one section you say 3 times. Then down here, you would be using your legal name, and you use it 4 times. It's significant. Now, I know some of us don't like our legal name. There's a point of that, and that means not the name you were born with, like we do in numerology, but it has a similar purpose as in numerology. It is how you are anchored in the time-space because you agree to be legally known that way. So I have changed from my birth name, from my maiden last name to my married name, and then I also go by an abbreviated version of my birth name. So when I do this part, I say, I request the attendance of the Divine Council of Light for Tricia Aaron Carr. It sounds like a totally different person, but I actually have some of my diplomas. I have my full legal name that way. So I'm going to pretend like I'm doing this for you, just so y'all can get an idea of it. I call upon the Holy Om, the one light of awareness, to be informed by divine light for my highest benefit and for the benefit of all concerned. I ask for guidance, clarity, and courage to receive true light. May I inhere in the perfection of divine existence. I, Tricia, open my heart in complete trust in divine light. I decree my divine right to receive truth, wisdom, and knowledge. I, Tricia, open my heart in complete trust in divine light. I decree my divine right to receive truth, wisdom, and knowledge. I, Tricia, open my heart in complete trust in divine light. I decree my divine right to receive truth, wisdom, and knowledge. I request the attendance of the Divine Council of Light for Tricia Aaron Carr. I request access to the Akashic frequency of Tricia Aaron Carr. Help me to transmit clearly the Akashic frequency of Tricia Aaron Carr. Please optimize this transmission for the highest benefit of Tricia Aaron Carr and all concerned. and so flows forth divine light. This Akashic transmission is open. And so now I would ask questions. And for example, I might ask the question, what do I need to understand about this career transition that I am upon? That might be one. Or perhaps, is there anything that is blocking me that I am not seeing that would help to improve my relationship with my mother? Or I might ask, what would be a past life that would help me to make a great shift in my life at this time? We're going to go over the questions, but we would ask them one by one, let the information just flow forth and just record it as it comes through. So we would ask the questions, allowing that frequency to flow, remain receptive in the state. If you want to take a break and imagine that column of light, if that feels helpful. Allow the wisdom of the Akasha just to flow through words, feelings, visions, or knowing, and do your best to refrain from interpreting and just record it. And it seems if you have 2 or 3 questions or something like that that you've prepared, it just kind of stops and then just move on to the next one. So then let's imagine we ask the questions, we got the information, and then we close the transmission before we do anything else. As it is spoken, may it be perfected by the one light. Any blind spots surrendered to love and divine light. In gratitude and appreciation, for it is done. The transmission is now closed. As it is spoken, and so it is. Amen. Now, amen, I think is a bit of that's optional, but I went ahead and put it in there. And as it is spoken, and so it is, that one is one that is, all of the words are really well, they're codified in a specific way. And then they said, amen is optional. Amen means truth, though that's what it actually means. That's why it buttons things we're sealing in spiritual work. So then I have here just what it would look like if you were to do it for another. And we're going to go more into giving readings to others, especially in the next one. But I'm giving this to you in case you want to practice it between classes. So you would have you would say all of this out loud, and then you would give this part to your sitter, and you can just write it down on a piece of paper, put it on the screen. I wouldn't give it to them in advance of the session because they might overthink it. Just give it to them right then and ask them to recite it 3 times aloud. You're going to ask their legal name, so you could put it in there. And then, all of the other bits of it. So one last thing before I close this document. In addition to not interpreting it while you were actually, pardon me for saying it this way, never interpret while you're in there, just to keeping that modality really pure, and then synthesizing it with your other modalities, again, just by closing it, opening it, closing it, and then if you do counseling or hypnosis or or more channeling or intuitive, and then interpret it afterward, if that is what you would like to do. But if you bring it through purely, it's going to be very cool. I promise you, there's a really interesting way why it's being isolated like this. But in addition to that, what you might want to do, this is my suggestion to you, is that for 30 days, just do Akashic record readings on their own. Now, I'm not saying don't do your mediumship if that's what you do. I'm just saying offer that only. So let's say that if you want to, just so that you can isolate it, let's say if you want to offer free readings to a client who you normally work with doing counseling or mediumship or something. So let's say, hey, I want to offer you an Akashic record reading. And they go, yeah, great. So do that session and then don't do anything else for that session. Now, maybe tomorrow or next Thursday, you get together for your regular session, and then you can, if you want to interpret it. You see what I mean? Like, let them stand alone for 30 days. And does that mean do 30 readings? No, I'm not saying that. But, somehow spread out over 30 days, some practice. Again, this is merely a suggestion. I'm not in charge of you. And if you're going for certification, it's not like I'm saying you have to do this to get certification. It's just a suggestion that, again, it's using isometrics so you can really kind of get your relationship with this process. And then again, after you fold it into your work, just open the session and close it, and then, do whatever work around it. So that's the invocation, just an overview of it. And then we're going to look at how to craft questions, because that's an important part of it as well. How are we doing on time? Okay, goodness. So I'm going to move quickly through this and then we'll get to some questions. But I want to look over the questions part at least. I had so much exciting stuff that I wanted to share with you guys. Maybe it will work. Portion of the screen. Okay, how to ask questions. All right, good, this one works. Okay, so asking questions in the Akashic Records. So we want to ask them in a way that actually allows the greatest frequency. So basically, we want to avoid when questions. When will I find a boyfriend? When will I get a new job? For the most part, we understand how that's not beneficial. You also want to avoid yes/no questions, because that doesn't leave as much for the frequency to flow through. If what you're asking, basically, like if you said, what do I need to know about this new job? And if you weren't going to get the new job, then they would say, well, the new job isn't something you need to be concerned about. So you don't even need to ask a yes/no question. You can ask a what do I need to know about, you see? So then, so leave them a bit open-ended. Obviously, we always want to avoid should in our lives, period. Avoid should, right? But this document this is a compendium of just a bunch of questions that you might look through it and say, oh my gosh, that really helps. So it's just a bunch of questions, and you can look through those and scan which ones. They're all in categories, and whether you actually lift one directly off of this or it just helps you to understand how to, tailor it a little bit. I just thought I wanted to put this together to make it really easy for you. I have been using it myself. I've been going, oh, good, there it is. That's going to be perfect for me. Creativity and expression. Now, it's not everything you can imagine, but even so, if a category that's here is not there, but the question may actually help you. I put in here soul journey and like contracts, and then past lives in general. So again, they're not always going to be about past lives. Sometimes people think the Akashic Records is all about past lives. It's not always about past lives. But if you wanted to specifically ask about a past life, then you can, I gave you some questions here to do that. But sometimes we ask about, what do I need to know about this new job? And they're going to bring through a past life. So, that might be what what you'll be dealing with. So ancestral healing and soul contracts. Again, it's something that might be really, really interesting to help to create some healing for yourself. So there is that PDF, but I wanted to show you one other thing that I have prepared for you. And this is a worksheet. It's very plain. It doesn't have my branding on it. This is a worksheet that you can actually send to a client if you want to. I put in the student portal 2 versions of it, one that could just be printed and written on, but I also put a version in there if you sent it to them, they could actually type on it. I made it fillable. So it's a dialed down version of that big long questions PDF that I gave you for you. And it's telling a little bit about how to phrase the questions, and then some spaces here for them to write down the things that they would like to bring to the session. So my thoughts are that you could there's a couple of ways you could use this. You could send it to them in advance, and then they just bring it to the session. It helps them to just think about it. Or you could send it to them in advance, ask them to give it to you. You could open the records and answer, bring through the answers to their questions, record the information, and then take it to the session and say, this is what came through. And then, because you've already closed the records, you could go ahead and move into your interpretation part. Now, again, I'm suggesting that you maybe hold off on that version of it until maybe 30 days after you've really gotten the framework about how to do it, but maybe not, because you will still be opening and closing the records. So there's a few different suggestions there. You might enjoy one more than the other, but it could be really cool. Now, also, or the other thing you could do is if the client sends you back the questionnaire and they still did put in there something that's not quite going to be the most high vibrational opportunity by their question, they're still saying like, when am I going to get a new job? Then you could go ahead and just rephrase it. Maybe you want to send it back to them and say, you know what, I just worked on this question a little bit better. Does this seem okay to you? Does that capture the essence of your question, how I've altered it? Those are some thoughts that I've had about it. Or you could just go ahead and alter it, knowing that you have their highest benefit in your heart. So there's our invocation and overview. And I say, let's give it a shot, shall we? Before we do, though, are there any questions about it? I'm going to. Yes, Lori, go ahead.
I'd like to understand a little bit more about the not interpreting. You're saying in that space of time that you're doing the session with the client, you don't interpret, not even after the reading on that day. Like you're saying the next time you meet with them, that's when you do the interpreting?
Well, my suggestion is that for 30 days that you do it that way, just so you can get like a solid, like not synthesizing it with other modalities for 30 days. That's just my suggestion. But you can
so during the learning process.
Yes, during the learning process.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then when we're doing it past that time, when we actually are good at it, I guess, when are we doing the interpretation? Within the same day?
Sure. You can do it after you close the records. The idea is to pull through the information, again, without interpretation, as purely as possible. And then, And then again, see, that's a shift for some of the ways that we do readings, right? Sometimes the way we do readings is we go, what does that mean? And that's very beneficial. I'm not saying it's not. It's just that it is. We're just isolating this to get some kind of, to get something very precise and very potent. Does that make sense?
So how do you relieve them of their desire, their need to know, to process all that?
Well, you can do it afterward. You can talk to them afterward. But you're after, again, the learning. Again, this is just my suggestion if you want to, about the 30 days. But you just, while you're bringing it through, so you're like, okay, so, what's coming through is a past life. I'm just making this up, but they're kind of giving me something. What's coming through is a past life where you were an Egyptian prince and your father passed away. And so you had to take up the charge of the empire. There was a lot of stress on you, and you ended up really having to leave the throne because of all of the difficulty. And then, then you came back into a relationship with your family in another time, and you died happy. Okay, that's all the information we're getting now. Okay, so the next question is, you know what I mean? And you just kind of like let it, and just let them know, I'm going to just bring through the information. I'm going to record it. I'm going to tell you what it is. And then when we close the records, we'll talk about it. And you can ask about it. Say afterward, I would say, again, go ahead and synthesize it with however else you counsel or ask for more help or clarity. You can say, but just know that you're now working differently. You are working with their spirit guides, and you're working with mediumship, and you're working with, you know what I mean? Like you're using your other modalities. With it, we're going to bring through that potent, pure Akashic frequency during the invocation period. Got a picture of it?
Sort of, kind of, yeah.
It's different, and that's why. But
yeah,
it's really cool, and when you do it for yourself too. Like I have a tendency. So again, when you're doing it for yourself, you go, oh well, what is? No, never mind. You just keep going. You don't have to ask what it means or stop to ask what it means. If you even have an inkling of what is that, or I wonder more about that, it will be folded in. So you don't have to stop is the point. You don't have to stop. And the thing is, again, just think about it. When there's channeling, when you're channeling, they just sit there and listen. So that's why I say there's an element of it that's similar to channeling, because you're just bringing it through purely without interpreting it. You're just bringing it through. But the distinction is that I have found that I don't always feel as altered. It feels kind of matter of fact, But that could be my experience. But some other people have that experience too. It's not as much like with channeling where you're like, we would like to tell you blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's just coming through and you're just, relaying the information. You're transmitting the information. Now it is still coming through and healing, and you're delivering it with compassion, and you're delivering it positively, because obviously as they're showing it to you, you could, you still want to make sure that you have the intention that it's going to be delivered gently, compassionately, because if you saw, and then I see that you are really mean. That's not what you would want to say. You might say there was a lot of aggression in that lifetime. You still have options, but your intention is going to support that, to be compassionate, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I know we're at time, but I'm happy to go over if you guys want to go over. And I'm sorry I didn't. I guess I planned too much. I didn't realize that I did. But how about? Does anyone have any more questions or thoughts?
I had some thoughts or
Hi,
questions.
Tracy. Yeah.
Hello. I totally missed the first 2 hours, so sorry if it's a dumb question. I know it's not, but so as far as like the pulling it through of information part, it seems to me it's a lot more like remote viewing, where you're just pulling through raw information and not interpreting it at all, and then just dealing with the information as it comes, and then interpreting it later, or
Yeah, exactly. I know. I found it really interesting, right? Because we were just doing those exercises, and I didn't see the correlation.
That's kind of why it made me think of it, because we were just doing those, and then I was like, oh, that's pretty similar. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I didn't plan that, but yes, and it's interesting that we are having those opportunities, and it's like, so what we're talking about to those of you who don't know what we're talking about astral mastery, and we've been practicing remote viewing. And remote viewing, that's what you do. You don't interpret it, and it's actually kind of hard because it's easier, I would say, with this to not interpret than with remote viewing, because with remote viewing you're trying to get the information. In this, the information is just coming. It's just showing up.
It's just flowing out.
It's just flowing, and so you're like, okay, so what's coming through now is that there was a past life and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? But it's not like you're definitely trying to sense something that is in another location. So
it's like a cross between channeling and remote viewing, kind of like those two together a little bit. You're pulling through raw information, but it's more flowing, kind of. Yes, and also you might also see, like I said, you might see an aspect of mediumship, because it does seem like you're listening to someone, but they're not identifying themselves. Okay. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay, thank you. That was my question. So it does. You can see it has a distinction, right? For sure. As a modality, that's what I was hoping that we would be able to find some value in. Something that is different, something that is new. Yeah. Well, how are you guys on time? Should we? Oh gosh, see, it would probably take us another half an hour, I think, to go ahead and do a reading together, like your own reading. Do you guys want to try to do that? Lori can't do it. Okay. Well, then how about this? Y'all just practice it. Mm-hmm. And what I'm probably going to do then is add other meeting. Oh, well, actually, if you can come to Sacred Sphere this Sunday, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, sit with it, practice it. I feel like I think you have enough information to just practice it. Don't have to make a big deal out of it. You know what I mean? Like, just recite the words. Prepare your questions first, which again, I gave you a big compendium of them. Prepare your questions, and then do the invocation, and then just bring through the information. And yeah, it may seem sometimes for you might think it's automatic writing. That's another modality it might feel like, right?
And just remember that when you are finished pulling through the information, to close the transmission. Yeah. And then sit and contemplate it. And then you can you can interpret it and talk to your spirit guides about it and say, okay, fine. I did it the way that Tricia told me to. Now y'all talk to me about it. If you want to do that. But it really is fun. And honestly, the knowing comes through at the same time anyway. Yeah. All right. What do you guys think? Do you feel like you have enough to go on to practice a little bit just with yourselves? Okay. And have fun. Remember, that's what they told us at the very beginning, that we are supposed to. This is definitely, you cannot disobey me on this. I am in charge of you for this. You have to have fun. Or else I'll come and spank you in your house. Lisa.
So I have a friend who lives in California, and she does tarot readings and stuff for me remote. And I knew that she did Akashic Records. So I reached out to her and I said, hey, will you do a reading for me? And she said, yeah. And it is this Saturday.
Oh, cool.
Now, I had set that up before I even found out about your course or anything. So one thing led to another. But I'm excited to see how that goes. And thank you, because now I have some questions. I can kind of like get my questions in order.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm going to practice a little bit on myself before Saturday. And then I'll share with you all, whoever is on the sacred sphere.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't know if she does it the same way. I've had an Akashic record reading before, and it seemed like a regular intuitive reading. So I have no idea if this is going to be like how her process is. I don't know what other people's process is.
No, I know. That's why I'm excited for that exact reason.
See what it is. Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, I can't wait to hear. Thanks. Hey, Kate.
Hold Metatron. I didn't even pull. It was just there, and I'm like, oh, that's it, and turned it over. It was just right there. And I have had an Akashic reading, and it was kind of similar as much as I can remember it to this process, with the invocation and then the questions, and very exciting. I'm bring it.
Awesome. Cool. I love it. It was just like a regular reading to me, but maybe she was tapping into the Akashic field. I don't know. I didn't know why it was called Akashic record reading when I received it. So, this is, I know some other person, I didn't take this course, but this person actually got really like way into like all these different, like you go in this lineage of this angel, and then you have this also lineage and this lineage and this lineage, and it was super complex. So again, like, I'm just hoping that, we'll find something really cool that we're receiving by practicing this modality. Awesome. Okay, then. Well, I will leave you all to it. I hope you can come to Sacred Sphere this Sunday. And otherwise, I will see you in our next, which is the 9th, January 9th. But if you can come this Sunday, then we'll practice this. We'll practice the Akashic Records. And there might be people there who aren't in this course. So then you might be able to offer a reading if you like. Yeah, well, that'd be fun. Okay, I had the best time. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. And if you have any questions or comments in the meantime, please feel free to shoot me an email, and I will do my best to get back to you. Have a wonderful holiday if I don't see you. And just love you guys so much.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tricia.
Bye. Thank you, Tricia.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.